What's going on, everybody? It's Ron Brown, LMT, the People's Fitness Professional, alongside my co-host,
Mikey Fever.
And this is a New Yorker's Perspective, back with the brother Sharif Anael.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy
New Year. Legends in the building.
The legends back in the building. Now, let's go right into it. You know, I don't want to waste any time. Let's talk about the division in the Moorish movement. Let's just get straight to it. Let's go into the division of the Moorish movement. Why is it so difficult for Moors to come together? And being that the Prophet's organization, I'm gonna say, if you will, is 100+ years old. Why don't we see any schools, banks, supermarkets?
Good questions.
Hospitals.
Very good question.
All right.
Let's okay. First, I want to preface this because this is very important. You know, the appearance of division in the Moorish movement is a very concentrated, very concentrated snapshot of the division of our people in America, period. You see, it really is. We've got all kinds of organizations and no ability to organize still. Something to think about. Now, the problem is a spiritual one. But remember, we don't see spiritual as spooky, right? To quote, in our questionnaire, right? What is the everlasting gospel? It is a saving power that comes from Allah through our ancient fathers by his prophet. See? So we're still very much connected to our forefathers. We're very much connected. That being said, here we go. When our forefathers fell in the end of the 15th century, right? We fell not because we lost the knowledge of ourselves. We fell not because we lost identity or we fell as the result of us stopping working together. We developed a habit of biting each other's backs and engage in mischief amongst ourselves. Anybody can research this. Research the Reconquista in Europe. The Reconquista was the 500-year struggle for Pale Europeans to retake control of Spain from us. They were able to win because we started fighting amongst ourselves. Mischief and the shedding of blood amongst ourselves. That's what did it. So here we are now, still faced with the same problem, and we will keep coming back until it's fixed. How do we work with each other? That's the high science. The high science ain't what information we know, or the colors of the chakras, or 120 lessons, or you can quote your Quran. That's not the high science. All of those are means to an end. And the end is what? The uniting of our people. So the Moorish Science Temple of America, we say, because we're in possession, which gives us less excuse. We're in possession of the missing episodic history of our people, right? That means that the disunity we see is a concentrated snapshot. And this is of the issues of our people in general. And this is why. Because we're back to pick up where we left off. We're back to solve the problems that caused our fall in the first place.
That's deep. In layman terms, for you so-called Negroes and lost Black folks, the crab in the bucket mentality.
Actual fact. It was the crab in the bucket mentality that caused our fall to begin with.
Ego.
And slavery was a consequence. It was part of the punishment of our fall. It wasn't the beginning. It was a consequence. It was a result of our fall. Now let's talk about the Moorish Science Temple of America. You've got, the division, right? You've got the division, and division's an illusion. But illusions cast shadows. Illusions cause real-time effects. This is important to understand. But now remember this. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali said this. Allah alone guides the destiny of this divine movement. So as crazy as it looks on the outside right now, if we admit or we believe that Allah does guide the destiny of everything, then the way we see the movement right now is exactly the way Allah wants it. And that's a hard pill to swallow. That's a hard pill to swallow. Either Allah fell asleep on the job, which means he ain't Allah, or it's exactly how he wants it, which means we got some serious problems to solve. See what I'm saying? So what do we got? You've got, you know, after the death, the untimely, seemingly untimely death of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, you've got what people call, and I'm saying it just this way, always a beef between Brother Edward Mealy Eel and Brother Charles Kirkman Bay, and then Brother John Gibbons Eel, three-way split, right? And you have three different organizations. Nah, that's not what happened. They may have later developed in that direction. That's not what happened. You had the same temples, and you had 2 to 3 different groups of leaders vying for control of the same temples. That's what you had. And that was a result of something. You know what it was a result of? The result of different groups within the organization not wanting to work with each other. In other words, the same old ancient hatreds from the end of the 15th century.
Yeah, which is happening right now. So like, you know, I don't want to say any names, but like a certain people don't want to deal with me because I'm dealing with certain Moors, or people don't want to deal with me because I'm dealing with 5.
Those are the ancient hatreds.
Yeah.
They literally see our problem. One of our problems is we've become the term black, man, it's an apt descriptor of our condition. We've become dead or asleep. Sleep is the cousin of death. Shout out to Nas, right? We've become asleep spiritually. And spiritual ain't spooky.
All right. So when you say that, what do you mean spiritually?
Okay, here we go. Thought, the power of thought.
Exactly.
It causes physical things to happen. We're thinking right now, but it's not happening on the physical plane. This is what our prophet taught us. Thought's not happening on the physical plane, but it causes physical effects. See that? It's happening on a higher plane. So we're not astute enough spiritually to recognize the thoughts that we're carrying today are the same old hatred from 500 some odd years ago. See that? The same way of thinking from that. And that way of thinking birthed the rise of the European psychology.
Well, I think that the thinking is perpetuated over and over through media, music, and just I think that our people are kind of stuck in like the civil rights movement way of thinking, and it's like we're not elevating above that. We're stuck on.
You know what we're stuck on? Okay, let's go to an old lesson. What makes rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes? That's a long answer, right? We know the answer, but what is the takeaway from that answer? The takeaway is this: most people are concerned with effect and not cause.
Okay.
Exactly. That's it. We're stuck on effect. That's what I mean by spiritual. Cause is spiritual. Effect is material. We're stuck on the material. We're stuck on the effect. We pay attention when the rain comes down, the rain, the hail, and the snow come down. We're not paying attention to the fact that it's actually going up when the sun is shining.
All the above is caused.
They're missing the first step.
All the above is caused by who? Come on, bro.
They're missing the first effect, the first step in the supreme mathematics.
That's
knowledge.
right, Brother Mikey. They don't want the one of the things is we don't really want the responsibility. See that? To know all of these things are caused by who? You see?
Man. So basically what you're saying is that everything starts within the mind. Right?
Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. Then the hospitals and the schools come. Then the community economics comes. You see what I'm saying? You're a martial artist too, Brother Ron. If I want to do damage to a target, I don't hit the surface of the target. I hit past the surface.
Yeah.
When I hit past, what do I get? Everything in between. That's what seek ye first the kingdom of heaven means.
It's a fact.
You see what I'm saying?
So now, how can we seek ye the heaven when there's so many, different information out there, and people get confused, and people don't know what to follow, people don't know what to study, people,
because people are looking for a who instead of a what. Again, looking at an effect and not a cause. They're looking for a who instead of a what. When this man says, when Prophet Noble Drew Ali says, the fallen Asiatic sons and daughters of North America need to learn to love instead of hate.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with that. What do I mean love instead of hate? Here we go. Ready? He said, if you would serve Allah, just serve your near of kin. That's easy. Those who are of no kin, that's a little harder. The stranger at your gate, that's a little harder. The foe that seeks to do you harm. Now, who's there yet? See, that's the remedy for what we did 500 years ago.
Knowledge.
Can we learn to do that? That's a high degree right there. That's high science. Can we treat each other right in spite of what others do? That's a remedy.
Wow.
What you saying is true. It's true. It's true.
I mean, yeah, because that's the hardest thing to do.
Listen, it's
like
easy for me to.
Yeah.
Brother, it's easy for me to go low because you went low. It's easy for me to get dirty because you got dirty. That's easy. That's how we fell.
Forgiveness.
That's how we fell. See? That's easy.
Can I add on to
Moorish. That's not Moorish.
It's universal.
It is that, but to go low, that's savagery.
Yeah.
Can I add on to that though? It's
Please.
what you said to that degree. It's so real because I didn't understand my mother at first, things that she went through in life. But when I see the forgiveness, I used to look at it like that's just a sign of weakness. But then when I got old and start doing it, I'm like, oh, that's strength right there.
It's strength. Because
the person humbles themselves, like they looking like, yo, and they back in their mind, they're like, I did this to you, and now you're just so.
It's funny that we're talking about this because
yes.
I've been for years a person that would go on attack a lot, and I just was like reflecting about like my grandfather and the way he handled things, because I was just trying to figure out I must be doing something wrong with people. And it was the way that I came across. I was coming off too hard, too straight. And then I just started reflecting about my grandfather. My grandfather, he commanded respect without saying anything.
Come on, brother.
And he was respected because of the way he handled everything with total tact and class. He didn't have to raise his voice. All he had to do is say a few things in an intelligent tone. And once he finished saying what he had to say, he would put his eyes right back on the television. And then whatever happens after that,
there you go.
It's done for him. He's not going to go back and forth with you. And then later on, I see him with my grandmother, kissing her and all that. And he was just.
Brother Ron, do you know what that's called? That's an aspect. There's more to it, but that's an aspect of what the prophet called the keys of civilization. It ain't material things. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's how we treat each other. And it's based on being able, what you just spoke about your grandfather, that is a knowing, whether it's a verbal knowing or an intrinsic knowing, that man is a thought. And if you can control thought, you control the atmosphere.
Exactly.
That's high science. You know how it is when you can walk into a room and your disposition changes the vibration of the room? That ain't spooky, but it's spiritual.
That's a fact.
And it's functional spirituality. But it all depends on what you're broadcasting when you walk in. We have to be conscious of that. What are we conscious of? We're conscious of what the outside world brings to us. That's backwards. That's backwards. See, it's not the possessing of thing, it's the knowing of its use. A lot of people have these instructions. Notice I call them instructions, not lessons. A lot of you have these instructions, but are they following the instructions? See, because following instructions means live them. When you live them, you get the result. The result is the lesson, and that's why we call them secret lessons. That's why, because they're not written down. The instructions are written down. You read them, you live them. The reciprocal is the lesson. You see? And that's how you could tell who's a student of Prophet Noble Drew Ali and who's not. That's how you can tell how they act, how they like your grandfather. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He may not be a direct student of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, but he would recognize civilization and others because he has it.
Yeah.
See? So we've got, what do we got? Back on the original question. We have a lot of people that were in possession of Prophet Noble Drew Ali's instructions. But look what happened. History tells us what happened. There were too many of them not practicing. Or else what happened wouldn't have happened. You get it?
Yeah.
So all the division, what do we end up doing? Brother, we end up doing what humanity, what you see with the division with Brother Edward Mealy-Ill, Brother C. Kirkman Bey, Brother John Gibbons-Ill, you know what you have? The fact that we can name these three and people are focused to have a focus on these three is proof that we did what humanity does all the time.
Yeah, because why are we focusing on the men?
Follow me. The Zen Buddha, yeah, that's good. I'm going to get to that. The Zen Buddha story of the teacher pointing at the moon and the teacher getting mad and pissed off at the students because all the students are looking at the finger instead of the moon. You see what I'm saying? Jesus didn't teach Christianity. Muhammad didn't teach Mohammedanism.
Say that loud.
Why do we honor Prophet Muhammad? Because he gave obedience to God a name. There you go. He just gave it a name. You see what I'm saying? But what do we end up doing? What do we end up doing? Instead of worshiping Allah, worshiping religion, worshiping the structure, right back to idol worship. See that? Trying to out-Moorish each other. And now what do you got? Oh, well, I'm a Mealy-Ill more. I'm a Kirkman Bey more. I'm a John. Get it? How did Prophet Drew Ali say it? Even in the path of wisdom, they toil after folly. Human weakness is that's the devil. Human weakness is human weakness no matter where you go. See what I'm saying? We lost sight of the prophet himself, chasing after what? Members of his organization, just like us. Idol worship. See that?
So my question to you is, why is it that the Nation of Islam still has a program that is thriving right now? I mean, it's not as good as it was some years ago. Right. However, I feel like it's making like a resurgence.
And that's good.
With all these different brothers and sisters from the Nation of Islam.
And that's good.
And I wanted to know, what do you think is the difference between Moorish Science and the Nation of Islam?
No difference, with a few exceptions. And I'm going to say that, shout out to my brother, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, the Allah team in the Nation of Islam. Good brother. I remember one day he and I were talking because he was about to get interviewed by somebody who was claiming to be part of the Moorish movement. He thought he was about to get ambushed. He said, yo, what do you think they're going to ask me? Right? And I told him. I said, they're going to probably ask you this, this, and this. They're going to want you to somehow validate Prophet Noble Drew Ali, which is a grave weakness for us in the organization and in the movement. Why? Because our ways and actions and our accomplishments should be more than enough to validate Prophet Noble Drew Ali. The same way that the ways, actions, and accomplishments of the nation and the followers of Elijah Muhammad validated him. You see what I'm saying? So what we want other people to do it for us. So we want the members of the nation to say, oh, they came from the Moorish Science Temple of America. We want the members of the Nation of Islam to say, oh, Elijah Muhammad came out of the Moorish Science Temple of America, right? Now, so in that interview, Brother Wesley Muhammad, sure enough, the question came up, are you willing to admit that Noble Drew Ali was the founder of Islam in America? Follow me. He said this. Absolutely. He said Prophet Noble Drew Ali was the foundation of Islam in America. And Honorable Elijah Muhammad himself said that he was a fine Muslim and that those that followed him should now follow me. That's what he said, you know, because I'm only trying to continue the work he did. That's what Elijah Muhammad said, right? So, for instance, the Do for Self program, incredible. That came from the Prophet's economic security program. You know, it's the same stuff. So, in essence, we can kind of say, and our brother Wesley Muhammad confirmed that their continuance, what you see the Nation of Islam doing, especially with Do for Self and other things like that, is a continuance of the Prophet Drew Ali's work. Then he said this. He said, and I would say that in many respects, the greatest examples we see of Prophet Noble Drew Ali can be found in the Nation of Islam. Who's going to argue?
That makes sense.
You know what I'm saying? Who's going to argue? Now, remember, look at it from the spiritual perspective. What are we concerned with? The results. Who cares? Now let's take it a step further. What is the proper full name of the organization we call the Nation of Islam? What is the proper full name? Temple
of Islam?
No. That's old. That was old. It was called Allah Temple of Islam. Yeah. Here it is. The laborers for the lost foundation of Islam in America. So who's the Nation of Islam? Our people.
Still something nationwide, yeah.
Prophet Drew Ali's teaching, chapter 45, he names the Asiatic nations in North America. What does he say at the end? All of these are Muslims. So in a sense, he's saying we're a nation of what? Islam. That's the people. See what I'm saying? So from a spiritual perspective, there's not much difference. If we look at it that way. And when I say spiritual, I mean a thought. From the perspective of thought, there's not much difference. You see? And I'll quote my leader, Brother R. Jones Bay, Grand Sheikh and moderator of the Moorish Science and NOI Incorporated. We were talking about the subject of unity a number of years ago for the Moorish Guide newspaper. I was writing an article, right? And I asked him, I said, how do you see unity coming about? And then you got all these people saying, oh, paperwork this and file that, and this group joins that group and blah, 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 blah. You know what he said? He said, man is a thought of Allah, according to Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Right? This is a thought organization teaching us how to think. He said, if I get you to think, you can save yourselves, right? Therefore, the Moorish Science Temple of America is a thought. And if we all see the organization the same way as a thought, now we can move towards unity.
That's deep.
Now we can move towards unity. We see it as a thought. That means when I see my brothers with the bow ties and the suits saying Assalamu alaikum with the bean pies, I'm looking at the thought. Unity doesn't mean uniformity. Unity doesn't necessarily mean uniformity.
That's real.
See that?
All right.
Yeah.
Didn't Malcolm say that though?
Sure did.
On a political aspect, he said, leave your religion at the door. If we facing the same common enemy and issues, why can't we leave the religion at the door?
Come on.
People have that issue.
Come on, brother. And see, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, we were instructed not to speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group.
So why do we see Moors doing that?
They're not, like I said, there's a lot of people that it's not in the possessing of the thing, it's the knowing of its use. You have a lot of people that are in possession of the Prophet's instructions, but you can tell by their behavior and what comes out of their mouths, they're not following the instructions. That's why. But see, that's another reason why during our meetings, all of our public meetings, we read the law. Why? So visitors can come and they can hold us accountable. They can hold us accountable. Wait a minute. I heard in one of y'all's meetings, y'all not supposed to speak radical against the American flag or the church or any member of any organized group. Why? Wait a minute. I heard you say blah, 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 blah. The public can hold us accountable. That's why that's done, among other reasons. But that's one of the main reasons the law is read in the public meetings. So the public can hold us accountable. See?
So what's the difference between Moorish Science's structure
Yes,
organization and the Nation of Islam? I would assume that the Nation of Islam would maybe have more detailed structure in their organization.
There's a reason for that. Some may get a little upset with me about how I'm going to answer this, but there's a reason for that. If we count now, we know that the thought that is the Moorish Science Symbol of America was founded in 1913. We know that. But if we were to count Chicago years from 1925 to 1929, we had the Prophet for 4 years. The nation had Elijah Muhammad for 44 years.
Oh, right.
There's your difference.
Right.
See that?
Right.
So all the painstaking, and he had to rebuild it twice. Once in 34.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 34? Yep. Once in 34, and then again in the 40s after you came out of prison. See that? That's a lot, man. So there's a lot of time to fine tune. The Prophet in the 20s said that he didn't build this for that generation. He built this for the children in the generation yet unborn. He said in the year 2000, Moors would come into their own. So this is the time that we're supposed to put in that type of detail, that type of nuance. See, this is the time for us in the Moorish movement now to do that. See?
So the way that Moorish science is set up versus the NOI, with the NOI, they always had like a national spokesman or minister for their organization.
Yes.
For instance, Malcolm,
Yes.
and then after that, Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. That's very powerful, and it's very effective. As we know, we have history to show that it's very effective. We're starting to do something similar. For instance, our leader. See, like let's be real. There's what people perceive as the division in the Moorish movement. There's 3, 4, 5, 6 different groups call themselves Moorish Science Symbol of America.
Exactly.
Islam has the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Nation of Islam has 4 or 5 different organizations called the Nation of Islam.
Yep.
But because there is one very strong, charismatic, educated, informed speaker / leader that has a lot of stamina,
yeah,
most people only hear of one.
Mm-hmm.
See that? Very effective. Very effective. You see? Yes, sir.
I'm glad that you said about the Nation of Islam having a split, because there's a split amongst them for those who follow Elijah's plan and those who follow Farrakhan's plan, being that he subscribed to some lessons in Scientology.
Mm.
I think there's a temple out in was it Texas, where they say they don't affiliate with Farrakhan's Nation of Islam.
There's a number of groups. There's a group led by Brother Silas Muhammad. There's a group led by Royal. There's a number of them that don't follow Minister Farrakhan.
Yeah.
Right. So, you've got a number of them. And so, but because of Farrakhan's endurance and strength and tenacity and support from his members and a number of other factors, strong man. You see, we got to demonstrate, and we're in the beginning stages of the Moorish Science Symbol of America Incorporated of demonstrating that very same strength for our leader, Brother R. Jones Bay.
Mm.
Very soon, he's going to be hitting the road doing public speaking.
Okay, and how old is our Brother R. Jones Bay? If you could give that information out.
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure how old he is.
Okay.
I can tell you this.
Is he around Farrakhan's age or no?
No, he's not that old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's not that old. No. I can tell you this. He's been in the organization since 1975.
Okay. I have a question though. One more question. I don't want to hold up.
Sure.
Is Tariq Bey part of a MSTA? Because I figure like
that's my brother. I love my brother. I've known
yeah.
College Tariq Bey since the mid '90s. No, he's
Okay.
not. No, he's not. He's not a part of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No.
Because let's say he kind of
He's not
implements
an
that.
official in the Moorish Science Temple of America, even though he affectionately carries the title of Grand Sheik and Divine Minister. Those are titles within the organization. And no, not a member. He's not.
He's more into the civics and all that.
Oh, I would disagree.
Really?
Follow me.
All right.
They, decades ago, he himself, him and other people in his circle, that in those, and I'm talking in the 90s, they called it the Moorish Order of the Round Table.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they came out with a series of lessons called Civic lessons.
Okay.
And was there some civic information in them? Yes. But what they were passing on as civics is what we now recognize as sovereign citizen ideology.
All right, got you.
Not civics. See that?
Right. Got you.
Not civics. The definition of civics is this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part of political science.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The definition of civics is that part of political science that deals with the rights, duties, and responsibilities of citizens.
Exactly. All right.
And the early mission statement of the Moorish Science Temple of America was this: to uplift fallen humanity and teach the things that necessary that make better citizens out of men and women. And it was originally incorporated in November 29, 1926 as a civic organization.
Got you.
See? That's what civics is. Teaching us how to be better citizens. Knowing government and how you interface, how the citizen interfaces with government. That is civics. Not what laws may or may not apply and jurisdiction. That's not civics. Never was. See? That's not civics.
So what do you think would be the remedy? Oh, well, you already basically stated the remedy would be to learn how to love instead of hate. However,
in real time, like I don't want it to be so nebulous and so broad, but I mean, we really have to demonstrate it. Real humility, an example, always comes from a position of strength. I might be able to, Brother Ron Brown may have some information on Brother Anael Bey that could totally destroy him, and we're at odds. Like I'm coming at Brother Ron, like and I'm coming at him in the public. And Ron is sitting on some information that could literally destroy me. But if Ron is a Muslim, what does he do? He tucks that and he don't even bring it up. That's real humility. That's real strength. See what I'm saying? We want to demonstrate that. We want to demonstrate that. That's what we try to demonstrate. See?
So now
it has to be practiced. We got to really put it into practice.
So now, I mean, what would be the solution to get us all on one accord? Because I've looked at the internet and had conversations, and people are real emotional about Moorish science, and even in the 5% nation. I guess just this world, I guess it's the same way in just our Islam, and probably even not to compare us to like the religions and things like that, but it's the same, just the bickering and fighting among each other about things that are relevant to a certain extent, but in the greater scheme of things, the arguments and the discord is irrelevant because we have so many we have a bigger fish to fry, and we have so many moves to make. So what would be the resolve here?
We have to we're either going to do it voluntarily or we're going to be forced to come to this conclusion. And excuse the example, the overt or the seeming vulgarity of the example, but it comes from a psychologist, clinical psychologist, the late Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She spoke to this about our people, and so did Sister Shahrazad Ali. Respect to her, right? They spoke to this. Here it is. When it comes to how we treat each other, Look at animals like dogs. How do they procreate? Right? The actual act or position is doggy style, right? Why? Because both can look for danger at the same time they're procreating, meaning they're demonstrating that they don't have the luxury of discord. No matter how they feel, they don't have that luxury. Either we have to voluntarily come to that conclusion, or we're going to be forced to come to that conclusion. That we don't have the luxury of beefing with each other. We don't have the luxury of disunity. We think we still do.
Speak on it.
Yo, we think we still do. We don't got that luxury. Look at how bad the world is. Let's go back to the old biblical story of Ezekiel and Ezekiel's vision. The dry bones in the valley. Allah said, yo, go preach to those bones. He goes, but they're dead. Sound familiar? Black according to science, ... Okay. He said, go preach to those dead bones. He goes, dead? They're dead. They ain't gonna do nothing. He said, do it anyway. He preached to the dead bones, and the bones stood up, formed a mighty army. But guess what? They didn't move. So Ezekiel complained to Allah and said, yo, okay, they're up. Sound familiar? They're up, but they're not moving. They're not moving. Sound familiar? Sounds like the organization.
Yep.
You know what Allah said to Ezekiel? Don't worry. I'm going to send my winds to whip them. The winds are going to make a move. What do the winds represent? Change. And what did the prophet teach us? Power changes as the ethers change. When the conditions change. Conditions are going to be made to where we're going to have no choice, brother. It's far better to get ready than to be made to do so.
Exactly.
It looks like we be made to do so.
You know when we do decide to unify, unfortunately, when tragedy hits us.
Come on.
Or as Hove said with J Electronica, no civilization is conquered from the outside unless it's destroyed from within.
Unless it's destroyed first from within.
Yep.
That's what happened. You know, that's where we are. You know, it's the prophet is reported to have said the Moors are, and he's talking about our people, not just the organization. Our people are hard-headed, stiff-necked, and rebellious people that never did anything except at the point of a sword. Always had to be made to do it. See? So that's what it's looking like.
I wonder why is that though?
It's part of our nature, man. With that, it's here we go. Let's take it back. Let's take it back. Let's teach a little bit of Moorish science. Chapter 1, Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Symbol of America, right? The human seed that came forth from the heart of Allah, from the spirit plane, was cast forth into the soil of soul, the middle plane of the three substantive planes of darkness, triple darkness, right? Into the soil of soul. It grew apace, meaning it gained self-awareness. Man there became a living soul, and then later became Lord of the kingdom of the soul. Now, later, much later, dropped down, lowered the vibration to the level of physicality. So man came, first man on the manifest, physical man, came fully civilized. Didn't come as no caveman, came fully civilized. But guess what? Because he came fully civilized and he had already mastered the plane of soul and never encountered the carnal nature, underestimated the carnal nature. He was arrogant. When it came to the carnal nature and it came to the physical flesh and it came to the physical manifest, he had the experience of an infant. Infant is perfect, but not perfected. Hasn't gone through nothing. So the carnal nature became a foe that man must fight, but we look down on it. It was our arrogance, our pride. So remember, our pride is a result of us remembering who we were and where we came from. That's why.
Round of applause. That's some metaphysics right there for y'all. You don't understand. That's some metaphysics.
You know what I'm saying? That's where our pride comes from. Comes from the fact that there's a part of us that still remembers. See?
Well, to go back to basically subduing the flesh.
Yes, sir.
This is something that we have to work on, Does honoring the prophets, as Prophet Noble Drew Ali stated, we honor all divine prophets. Does that have anything to do with it? Because he speaks on Buddha, Confucius, and
know what that forces us to do, Brother Ron? He says we honor all divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, etc. On the charter of the Moorish Science Civil of America, it says we are to promote and practice the principles of all the divine prophets. Wait a minute, how are we practicing Confucianism and Buddhism and Hinduism and and all that if we're Muslims?
Yeah.
Here it is. If he says we honor all true and divine prophets, that means there must be a commonality in what they taught, not what people did with their teaching after. Confucius didn't teach Confucianism. Buddha didn't teach Buddhism. Jesus didn't teach Christian. You get it? There must be a commonality that we can trace, which requires us to do what? Dig. Study.
Know thyself.
Right. Now this is where I was going with it. Exactly.
See?
So now Buddha, now the practice of Buddhism is meditation, right? That's like now are we to meditate? Like is that I mean, from my own experience, I know that's extremely important.
Prophet Noble Drew Ali in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America informs us that Allah gave us the powers of meditation to contemplate his, yes, sir. That's in that. It's right in here. See? He talks about, in chapter, watch this, right? Watch this. In chapter 24, the obedience of children towards their father. Right? The last instruction. So shall their hoary heads, talking about the age, the grandfathers, whatever, their hoary heads go down to the grave in peace, and thine own children, in reverence of thy example, shall repay thy piety with filial love. What is that? Who taught about filial piety? Confucius. We're talking about the principles, not the personalities.
So what is that filial piety?
Filial piety, like, you see this in Asia all the time because Confucius had such a strong influence on the social structure in the East. Filial piety in the West, here it is. When we say old man, it's like a slight. Oh, you old man. You say old man in the East, it's like reverence, like, wow, that's a compliment because of Confucius. Because of the influence of Confucius' teaching, because of filial piety. Over here, the old take care of the young. Over there, the young take care of the old. You understand? Filial piety is that the youth honor the elders.
That's a fact.
That's why there's a prophecy that the prophet made. He said they're going to be new Moors coming in with their eyes wide open, seeing and knowing. They're going to take you old Moors, seat you in the back, and carry out my law. Way too many of us apply the Western idea and think that that's punitive. It's not punitive. It's reverential. Yo, if it wasn't for you, elder brother, elder sister, the doors wouldn't have been open for me to come in the first place. If it wasn't for you preserving this, it wouldn't be here for me to see what I see. Now I stand on your shoulders. You rest. I got you.
Exactly.
That's what's meant by it. See? Not punitive. Think about it. Ain't that the problem that we got in the hood right now? The disconnect between the older and the younger generations.
Speak on it.
Generations are brazenly repeating our mistakes because there's no reverence for the elderly. There's no reverence for those that went before you.
That's a fact.
Right.
I wanted to add on to that.
Yes, brother.
Please. I wanted to add to that wisdom right there. You said, I read in this book that man crawls on all fours, walks on two, then walks on three in his later years.
That's the riddle of the Sphinx, brother.
You understand?
That's the riddle of the Sphinx.
Yeah,
that's
man.
right.
It's
that is the answer to the riddle of the Sphinx. What crawls on four, then on two, and then on three. That's right.
That's true. So we need to change that dynamic in the hood.
For sure. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I would say starting with the Moorish Science Temple, because that's where, the brother's post is for sure.
No doubt.
Originators, man.
Yeah, and now speaking of unity, I got the brother Divine Allah here.
Peace.
Peace,
Peace.
brother Divine. You hear us?
Peace, peace, peace. What's going on, beloved?
Yes, sir.
Man.
Yeah. So we're gonna go into the Divine Allah interview. Sharif, if you want to stay on as long